What is going on, guys? In this video we'll take a look at Freedom Fighters. What made this game great back in the day, what wasn't so great, the story, music, gameplay, and how is it to play it 20 years later. Freedom Fighters is a third-person shooter released in 2003 for PS2, GameCube, Xbox, and Windows. It was developed by IO Interactive, also known for the popular Hitman franchise, a game for which we'll even have some Easter eggs in here. It was published by EA Games, making this game one of the few developed by IO Interactive and not published by Eidos Interactive. Initially, this game was titled Freedom: The Battle of Liberty Island, and it will later be renamed Freedom Fighters at the E3 press conference from 2003. The game was re-released in September 2020 on Steam, GOG, and Epic Games Store. Since up to this point, I think that it was only available as a physical copy if I'm not mistaken. Regardless, I saw this re-release as a great opportunity to make a video since I have very good memories about this game. The console versions apparently also had a multiplayer, which consisted of a form of capture the flag game mode. You were supposed to secure flags in bunkers which are positioned around the map, and you would fight the other people over them. The game's soundtrack was developed by none other than Jesper Kyd. If you already know him, then you should know that his reputation precedes him, by working on titles such as Hitman and Assassin's Creed. The soundtrack is a complete banger, and it encompasses all the necessary emotions that you would expect from an original soundtrack. From tracks such as Isabella, Leader of the Resistance, for the more calm and emotional moments, to some absolutely amazing battle pieces, so intense that will really make you choke the life out of some fucking invaders. In terms of some noteworthy voice actors that played in this game, we have Vanessa Marshall, who voiced Isabella Angelina, and you might recognize her from Star Wars Rebels, where she plays as Hera Syndulla, a character who we can also see in the now released Ahsoka TV show. But she doesn't play her in that one though, so manage your expectations. We also have Nicholas Worth, who voiced the main villain Colonel Bulba, and you might also recognize him from Command & Conquer Red Alert 2, where he played as Alexander Romanov, another game where the story revolves around Soviets versus Americans. I'm curious if you guys would like me to make a video about that game as well, so please let me know in the comments below. Now, there isn't much else to talk about this game, as this was one of those games that was a great experience, was really fun overall, but not enough people talked about it, unfortunately.
Ever heard of it?
And then went completely silent. And I might have a small idea why, but we'll get to that later. A sequel was supposed to come out published by Eidos Interactive, but we haven't heard anything since 2011, where IO Interactive replied to a tweet by Gaming Rumors that Freedom Fighters 2 was something that they were interested in doing. And since IO split from Square Enix in 2017, they pretty much took with them the Freedom Fighters rights, which I think they still hold even today. Let's get to the story now, and we'll start off with a spoiler alert in case you haven't played it yet. Here's a short description that I found on the IO Interactive website. You'll take on the role of Chris Stone, a hardworking plumber who must rise through the ranks of the resistance to prove himself as a charismatic leader. Throughout the campaign, you'll travel to various locations across the city and complete interconnected missions where your actions in one level affect the battles in another. You'll liberate supplies, scavenge weapons, and use the recruit and command system to grow the resistance and lead your squad of up to 12 freedom fighters into strategic conflicts. Command a single soldier or your entire squad to scout ahead, defend an area, or follow your lead. Be tactical and take the fight to the invaders. They took your freedom. It's time to take it back. Chris Stone has a very Marvel-like superhero origin story where he didn't give a rat's ass about what's going on and was pushed into a conflict that he believed is just a conspiracy.
Besides, I don't follow all that conspiracy crap like you do.
He was at the wrong time in the wrong place. He needed to man up in order to help save his brother, who is later killed, which ultimately pushes him to get revenge justified by his companions that it's for the greater good. This is where a pretty freaking cool plot twist happens.
Ooh, plot twist.
After the assassination of General Tatarin, who killed Troy, Chris's brother, the person who introduced you into the rebellion, Mr. Jones, turns out to have been a double agent this whole time and is actually Colonel Bulba. He disguised himself as an American in the Warning Against Reds movement in order to gain the trust of the rebels and get in undercover. After you return to the rebel base, you find out that all the rebels are gone and Bulba, now promoted to general, has taken over.
Now it's mine.
During his time as Mr. Jones, he had some moments where you could notice that something is weird about him. I only realized this after finishing the game and doing my research, as whenever he would speak or act, he'd use sentences like "your flag" rather than "our flag."
Secure the police station and liberate our leader, Isabella. Raise your flag to signal our release.
Isabella gets captured again, and this forces Chris to become this great charismatic leader and motivational speaker that lifts everyone up to fight against all odds in order to rid the country of these invaders. He then manages to liberate New York, but he can't help but feel empty, as this might have been just one small battle in a war that was yet to
Why
come.
don't you celebrate with me and the rest of the crowd?
There's nothing for me to celebrate. They'll be back with bigger guns and more soldiers.
Ultimately, the hero gets the girl, and that's where the story ends. Which is pretty fucking cliche if you ask me, but oh.
Hey guys, you're gonna miss the party!
Operation Cockblock.
The way the story is presented is through the other characters' dialogues before and after a mission, and during gameplay. Every character that we interact with are actually quite likable, from Chris's brother Troy, the Resistance leader Isabella, to the other characters such as Baxton, the Street Kid, or even Mr. Jones. After each mission, there's a cutscene where one or more characters talk about the stuff that happened in that mission and sets up the events for the next one. There's really nothing more to it. The idea of the story is simple and kinda generic, but it works well through its presentation and the gameplay mechanics. There are a couple of things that bothered me regarding the story, and one of them was the way that they tackled Troy's death.
Why did he have to die?
Even in the most horrific of circumstances, he managed to find the strength to not betray his brother, costing him his life.
Don't believe this stinking propaganda! Keep fighting! Set us all free!
My problem is that there wasn't that much character progression throughout the game to make me care for him enough. We only get a cutscene where you actually see his personality, which is the one from the beginning of the game, and you can see there that he is a cool guy and has a very likable sense of humor.
Morning? I wish for once we get a fancy condo on the east side with a view. Whoa. Isabella Angel whatever. She's that hot spokesbabe for the Warning Against Reds movement? I saw her on TV yesterday.
No idea.
That's where it stops though, and the news that he died after the press conference didn't really work for me. There wasn't anything that would actually make you feel like you wanted to strangle Tatarin for what he's done. You just hear from Mr. Jones, aka Colonel Bulba, who was actually present at the execution, that he's died and it's all business as usual. Not to mention that you hear this before the assassination mission, and Chris just stands there in silence. Maybe he's grieving, I don't know, but I would have liked to see some emotion in all of this to make me care more than what was presented. A good example of this is the TV station post-mission cutscene, which is arguably one of my favorite motivational gaming cutscenes. The amount of raw power, emotion, and moral boosting that is done in that speech is insane. How do you go from that emotionless death of Troy to this cutscene? I don't know.
Against the evil invaders and yell in their faces that they will never take our freedom! Freedom!
The gameplay is probably the thing that people appreciated the most back in the day, more specifically the AI, that of the enemies, and the way your companions are handled. So, as you progress through the story, you earn charisma points by completing mission objectives and maybe some other optional stuff such as healing wounded civilians. As your charisma level grows, you will be able to recruit more and more soldiers up to a total of 12. These recruited soldiers will follow you around and are surprisingly helpful. You can initiate 3 types of commands to them: follow, attack, and defend. I mostly kept them at follow, as they would pretty much do their own thing depending on the context. The offensive mode I used to make them act as tanks and grab all the attention so that I could flank the enemy, while the defensive mode I barely used since I'd move around a lot rather than hold a certain area for some reason. If you try to progress through a section stealthily by crouching, they will also crouch and won't attack unless attacked or ordered to do so. They will also vault over walls seamlessly and pretty much work well all the way through. Another thing that stands out with the gameplay is the way that the missions are structured. In order to finish a mission, you will have to take over several locations in an area. Some of these locations will have certain constraints, which will have you go to another location in order to complete an objective, or grab something which helps you in the previous visited one. You can tackle each location in any way you like, but you might meet resistance, which will make it harder if you don't finish an objective in another one. Let me explain. In the second mission, we have 3 locations to take over. One of them will have you destroy an attack helicopter by detonating it along with its helipad. The other will have you destroy some bridges, which will stop reinforcements from coming in. And the third one, you just need to rescue some prisoners. If you were to go and rescue the prisoners first, not only would you be met with an attack helicopter on your ass, but also a vehicle which keeps bringing in reinforcements. Same goes for destroying the bridge first, which is defended by the chopper, but the helipad is actually the only objective that's the least defended. However, you still need to go to the prisoner's location in order to grab the explosives. So in this case, the right order would be to grab the explosives first without attempting to free the prisoners, as that's the area where the chopper flies by, destroy the helipad, then the bridges so that the reinforcements stop coming in, and then rescue the prisoners. I absolutely love this game design because you will find yourself in quite a pickle at first and maybe even a little frustrated until you realize that there are different ways of tackling the whole mission. Besides that, the first mission acts as a tutorial and does a very good job of making you understand this game design. NPCs will also give you hints about what needs to be done, you just need to talk to
blow
them.
that gas station? You're gonna need some explosives. You can find some in the other neighborhood.
Hey, listen, buddy. Grab some explosives and get back to the sewers. Go to the gas station. That's where you'll need to blow the fuel tank.
Now, apart from the AI and this fairly nicely done level design, the game is pretty much straightforward from a gameplay perspective. It's a third-person shooter, you have a decent amount of weapons to choose from, nothing that blows you away though. There are 5 main weapons, an RPG, a couple of pistols, grenades, Molotov cocktails, and that's about it. There isn't a big variety of weapons, and I personally use the AK-47 the most because that's the most common weapon and the one you will find the most ammo for. Ammo is quite a big problem, and you need to make sure you won't run out of it in the most inappropriate situations, which happened quite a few times for me even with the AK. Enemies are bullet sponges and will take quite a lot to kill even with a sniper rifle, which only a headshot will kill them instantly. The aiming isn't very precise either, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. The way I looked at it is that Chris is a former plumber, right? He probably never shot a gun before, and this whole story is told in the span of not even a year, considering how you start in the summer and the last missions are during winter. That's not even close to enough time for a person to learn how to shoot properly, even with the amount of shooting that he did. So, from a story perspective, this aspect is excusable. A funny thing that I discovered while shooting in this game though, is that bullets don't actually travel through the air in the trajectory of where you're pointing your gun at, but rather where you have your cursor. So if a character wall is placed behind the protagonist and your cursor collides with it, the bullets will actually hit that object behind him instead of going in front where your gun is pointing at. This was mind-blowing as it happened to me a few times when a companion would be behind me and I was shooting him instead of the enemy in front. Very confusing. Throwables are thrown in an awkward fashion at first, but you get used to it sooner or later. However, I did appreciate the fact that the enemies aren't complete idiots and they actually run away when throwing a grenade near them. They even make a funny reaction beforehand.
And they run. They actually run from grenades. Look at that. Now that is amazing.
There's only one other resource that you'll run into. We talked about charisma needed to recruit soldiers, but we also have health packs which you can use to heal yourself or your fellow soldiers when they are downed. If you see the cross icon, you can open your map, see where your companion has fallen, go to him, press E, and it'll heal him right up. And that's all there is to it. Using health packs on yourself though is much more important, as this game does not have a quick save button nor checkpoints. You start the area by coming out of a manhole. You can use these to quick save, change locations, or go back to the rebel base. Some areas usually have more than one manhole and can be seen on your map. it's best to go to it when you get closer to your objective in order to open manhole cover and quick save in case you die later. Otherwise, you'll have to start the whole location again, which can be quite tedious. Now, the biggest issues I've had with this game are the following. I can't say I'm a fan of the very cartoonish art design with the characters, as well as the awful gun sounds. The AK-47 sounded like a fucking paintball gun. Because of this, I couldn't really take the game as seriously as it wanted me to. The way the story is presented was very well done, and the incredible soundtrack. I swear to God, Jesper Kid absolutely carried this game with his soundtrack. Just want to go guns blazing and liberate fucking America. But there were times where I just couldn't help but feel like I'm in some Sims third-person mod, fighting dildo-headed Goomba-looking motherfuckers, like some other game where you play as a plumber, while shooting my water ball gun. The friendly characters, I feel like they didn't do a great job of making me care for them enough, like I mentioned Troy earlier.
Look on the bright side! At least I'm not hurt.
The villains, I felt like they did a good enough job in spreading that misleading propaganda and in wanting you to side with them, especially General Bulba after he stopped acting as Mr. Jones, and his speech there I felt was quite convincing the way it was presented.
We are gathered here today to bid farewell to our great leader. We came to restore law and order, to secure peace and stability in this region, and save the American citizens from brutality and exploitation. And this is the brave general's reward? Long live the revolution! Long live Soviet government of the United States!
Then there's the final mission, which I found to be so disappointing. I didn't even realize it was the final mission until I hoisted that last flag and that ridiculous cutscene started. Right? And we got the fourth flag. This is the Southwest Bunker, and we are done. Alright, let's go to our next mission. Wait. What? Game complete? No way, no. This isn't game. No. I actually wondered why I didn't remember anything major happening at the end, since I played this game as a kid, and now I know why. It's because literally nothing happened. It was just a normal mission, along with the cringy cutscene that I felt was so rushed. I actually wonder if they really rushed the finale, because it sure felt that way. I expected a fight with General Bulba or something more impactful to happen, but that was it, and where the fuck is General Bulba? Seeing Chris and Isabella hugging was quite nice and understandable, and then they ruined it. Why? Why in the hell did they have to kiss and go for such a generic finale? Why? So yeah, I'm definitely not a fan of the ending, and the main things that I felt made this game great was part of the gameplay, more specifically the AI and the mission design, the story presentation, and my personal favorite, the incredible soundtrack. Yeah, I'll die on this hill defending the soundtrack. I don't care what you say. So, after finishing the game, I stood there for a minute, processing what the fuck just happened in that last mission and cutscene, and I realized that the game had a decent length, a little shorter for my taste, at around 6 hours, but the problem was that there was no reason for me to play it again. The replayability of this game is non-existent. There are no collectibles, nothing to do that would make the story go another way, no Steam achievements. There really isn't a reason for you to play the game again, and this is another thing that the game lacked from my perspective. All in all, I think the game has a shit ton of potential. Is it the best game out there? Obviously not, but it has an amazing foundation for a sequel that I believe could have been a Game of the Year candidate. even a remake would probably be enough to work on some of the points that I didn't feel were handled very well and add some replayability and maybe some PlayStation trophies for me and my fellow trophy hunters out there. That being said, I still recommend playing this game at least once because there's no reason to play it more than that, and just enjoy the game and what it has to offer because it does have some things to offer that are really worth enjoying. Soundtrack. So that's about it for this video. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I really hope to see you in the next one. Peace and carrots.